Hello, everybody, and welcome into Senior Living Live. My name is Melissa. Thank you so much, as always, for being with us. Ladies, today our webinar is for you. We've got a live question and answer session all about menopause. Suzanne Price and Heather Wanner are here to empower you with information designed to support women's health at all stages of life, including our senior years. We absolutely want you to be a part of our conversation. And in order to do that, all you have to do is scroll down to the bottom of your screen where you see the Q&A button. You can type your questions out there at any point in time throughout the webinar, and I will read each of those live here during the presentation. We want you to walk away today feeling armed with more knowledge than you came in with. Ladies, hello. Suzanne, Heather, please tell our audience all about yourselves.
Okay, I'll go first. My name is Heather Wanner. I'm a nurse practitioner at Evergreen Primary Care and Wellness. I've been a nurse practitioner for a long time. It's probably since 96, doing internal medicine, women's health, and senior health, as I know a lot of you from that world. Really enjoy doing women's health and getting the word out about women's health and how many different ways we have to tackle this as we go along and through this journey of menopause and perimenopause. So that's a little bit about me.
I'm Susie Price. I've been a registered nurse for longer than Heather, long time. But it has been a wonderful opportunity to experience all different aspects of health. I've worked in coronary care in the emergency room. I've worked in women's health. I've worked in pediatrics. And the last, I believe I'm at the 8-year mark, I have worked with Arbor Senior Living and have just absolutely loved it.
So I think the first question, a really good place to start, and I'll just kind of pick and choose so that we can get right to somebody directly. So we'll just start with you, Suzanne. Why this topic?
This topic is one that unfortunately is not discussed as much as it should be. And when it is discussed, much of the time there's almost a connotation there. It's a disease, it's a negative. You'll hear people use it as an adjective. Oh, she was menopausal. That's not at all what it is. It's a natural process of us in our journey of life. And it's a positive thing. Yes, there are symptoms, as Heather will address, but we should not be looking at it in a negative sense. What we are doing a lot of the time is keeping our worries and our concerns to ourselves, because it has had that connotation, and our mothers never talked about it. And so that was kind of passed on. Now, thankfully, we're beginning to talk about it because it's so important to know these are your symptoms. Is it menopause? Is it perimenopause? Is it something else? We've got to get it out and feel comfortable talking. Women in general need to advocate for themselves and for their wellness. We take care of everybody else and we forget to take care of ourselves.
Isn't that the truth? Absolutely. Heather, so as she talked about there, the symptoms, what is it? Is this that? Is it something else? Am I dying? What is happening? Because the symptoms are so varied from person to person.
Right. So I have the advantage of seeing women come into the office over the years and talk about it. So that's been, and I learn from it every time people come in because everybody's symptoms are so different. There's a variety of symptoms. The biggest one, I think, media and we hear about is hot flashes, which if you've ever had one, they are real, they are true. But I hear a lot fatigue and brain fog, just not being able to keep up with the day as well as you used to. I hear a lot when women come in and say, I just feel my plate is so full and I can't keep up with everything as I used to. And these are women like in their mid 40s, late 40s, still having cycles, just feeling like maybe a little anxious, depressed, can't remembering things as well, not sleeping as well. Those are big ones. Those are big ones I hear about all the time. before you even get into irregular cycles and going down that pathway. I feel like perimenopause and premenopause, that's a lot of hard work. The definition of menopause is no menstrual cycle for 1 year. Well, that's a lot of hard work before you get there.
Mm.
So, that's what's so nice to be able to talk about and offer women support during that time. And we are talking about it so much more than we used to. And there's a lot more research regarding women and hormone replacement therapy than there used to be. Because, back when my mother was older, it was a lot of people got total hysterectomies and there wasn't estrogen replacement because estrogen equaled cancer. And we've learned so much more now, and how testosterone and a little bit of estrogen replacement can help bone health as we go along. So
Yeah, and we're definitely going to talk about that as we continue this presentation for sure. The alternatives, things that we can do to minimize symptoms. Suzanne, when as Heather alluded to, the symptoms, when do we start seeing it? So if I'm a woman and I'm wondering if this is something else or if it's that, how will I kind of know the difference? And I assume that obviously age plays a role in this.
Again, as Heather mentioned, it is so different for each person that it may take a bit to know that it's that. One thing, for example, depression. Some women wonder, is this part of the menopause journey? I feel more depressed. If you have anything that's not normal for you, if you've had depression in the past, it's kind of a different journey. You should still, of course, address it. But if this is a new thing for you that you've not experienced in your life up until now, go early rather than later. I think, again, as women, we downplay, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, I'm just being silly. I'm being dramatic, or I just don't have time. We have to make time and address it and understand our bodies and what we're going through so we can mitigate as much as possible. I remember in the emergency room, we would have women, and our cardiac symptoms are more ambiguous anyway than men's for a cardiac event, but women would wait so long to come in because they just downplay for themselves things that if it was somebody in their family, they say, we're going in right now. They won't do that for themselves. So anything that is not the norm for you, and again, Heather will probably go into, if you've started to miss periods, your cycle is irregular. That's, of course, a flag that you're starting into that. But before that, you can have symptoms begin. And it's important to educate yourself on, some of the main ones. Sleep is a big one. The insomnia or waking up and not being able to go back to sleep. I hear that one a lot. Of course, the hot flashes. Know what it is you'd be looking for, and then just relax. And if something comes up, address it with your doctor. And if they blow you off, go find a new doctor.
I think that's key right there. If someone's not going to listen to your symptoms, you're paying them for a service. And if they're not going to do the
Exactly.
service, you wouldn't do that with the plumber. If the plumber's not going to fix the problem, you're going to go find somebody else. Same thing with
Yes.
the doctor.
And
So
this is a relationship you should have for years.
sure.
Ideally, this person will see you through the whole passageway and they will know you. And so you want someone that it's a good partnership and you feel comfortable with.
Absolutely. I agree with that. So Heather, we're talking about um, maybe the pre and then the during and then the after. So there's sort of like these phases, right? So let's talk about maybe the more common misconceptions between perimenopause and menopause, and then how we know when that whole journey is finally completed.
right. So I think that's one of the big things talking about it, where everybody's beginning may be a little bit different. And this is where having the relationship with your primary caregiver is so important, because we're talking about all of this through the years. And when you get busy, and I was super guilty too. I look back and I'm like, oh wow, I haven't had a cycle in 2 months, or life is busy and things change, And that can happen for some women so fast, and some women it takes a really long time. Or you don't have a cycle for 9 months and then all of a sudden it's back. You're like, "Oh no, I was almost there, 12 months," you know? Um, but when you're going through all of this, you know, irritability is one that I think people don't like to talk about a lot because they feel like I hear it a lot with women in their mid to late 40s as they're going through life and they're very busy and you're going through all of this and things are changing and women get so you feel like your temper is a little bit short and you're going through it all and maybe you bite back at your kids a little bit and it feels bad, you know. That's one of the things when you're going through when you hit menopause. The definition of menopause is no cycle for 1 year. That is the definition. And but there's so much more that happens before and then after that as well. You may not have a cycle, but people continue to feel the brain fog. You can continue to not have a good sleeping pattern. There's GI issues that can follow along with it as well. You know, and the challenge of all of this is, does a person go through it at 49? Some people do. Some people go through it at 55. So that's where the history with your primary care provider and when you're going through it all, that's where, you know, having someone else talk to you about it and being like, "Hey, do you realize this is going on?" Or "How about your sleep?" And I think it's a good thing when you're going when you feel like you may have a little bit of this or you're questioning yourself or even talking to your friends. That's super important. Open it up. Everybody else is going through it as well, you know, talking about it and maybe there's like even on Facebook or social media, there are menopause symptom questionnaires. Take one, take it in with you. I've my clients do it all the time. They bring it in and we have one that we give clients as we go through it. You know, how many are these am I having? How many of these did I didn't even realize are symptoms of menopause, you know?
And Suzanne, can you maybe touch a little bit more on that? Sort of like, we go through life and there are times that you feel, I think we've all been there, where it takes a village, right? So you have your primary care physician, at least we hope you do. And there's community though out there as well. And we want to hopefully give that knowledge today that there are places you can go to that you can find support even beyond your doctor, correct?
Absolutely. And, if you go on the internet and Google, the NIH website has excellent information. It is not difficult at all. If you go to your public health department, they have information. If you look up your city services, there is usually some kind of a support associated with your public health. But as we were saying earlier, talking to friends is very powerful because I think a lot of times we feel very alone and think, oh, it's me. There's something wrong with me. And then you talk to your friends and you realize it's all of us. And it's so helpful to know, to be validated and to know we can do this together. And you can laugh, not all the time, but you can laugh sometimes. And you can commiserate too. Or you can say, what did you do for this? And somebody else can say, hey, this supplement has really worked well for me. And somebody may have a doctor that they love to help support everyone. I even tell people, take your friend with you to the doctors. If you're very intimidated by having this conversation and you're afraid you won't, some people get there and everything leaves their head and they can't remember their questions. If you need someone to come along and listen and maybe kind of nudge you and say, you were going to ask this or this, take them with you. But develop a support group, whether it's family members, friends, a trusted associate, or find the health support system in your area.
Yeah. I think there's a little bit of a joke going on and on one of the social media platforms that I frequent where it's called the 3 a.m. posse of all the women who wake up at 3 a.m. And
Yeah.
then they're like, what do I do now? So they're scrolling social media because they're trying to fall
Yeah.
asleep. But it's like, the committee, we've met.
No,
We're
it's a
3
real
a.m. We're
thing.
here.
And 3 a.m. seems like the magic, that's everybody. I had a friend who like clockwork 3 a.m., did that, just lay in bed. She started to run up quite a bill on Home Shopping Network. So she had to stop doing that.
Yeah, that's bad
Right.
news bears. It's one thing if it's not affecting your pocketbook or other
That's
areas of
right.
life. If you're just scrolling, it's okay. But I mean, but that just goes to like I said, the sense of community where women seem to be talking about it more and more and more. Like, what is this, guys? Is it just me? And then you start to see the responses that it's like, no, and I have this too, and somebody's like, I've got that too. So we love the fact that these platforms are allowing more free and open discussion in this particular category, because as you guys mentioned, it's kind of been something that hasn't flown under the radar, but just has not been talked about for decades. As you said, our moms didn't talk about it really, and their moms certainly didn't talk about it. So let's sort of break through the mold and help the next generation out. If we can't help ourselves, let's help them. So okay, let's talk about the potential um, uh, things that can help. And I say potential because, again, everybody's different. We mentioned HRT. What about that? What about any sort of natural supplements, Heather, that we can do to sort of mitigate all of these symptoms?
Right. So there's so many things that are available, and you can read for weeks about things that are available for menopause and supplements. Some of the things that I think naturally, that if someone wants to take that route, there's different ways. There's natural supplements that combined a lot of things together, but there's also, you've heard of like black cohosh that helps with, it can help with hot flashes and sleeping through the night. There's calcium and vitamin D are also really great for bone health when you're going through, as if you have a low calcium level, it can even make your estrogen deplete faster. So this is very important when you're going through perimenopause for bone health, when you're going through menopause. So that to me, the women that come in their mid 40s and early 40s, when we're talking about it and preparing for it, make sure you're taking your calcium and your vitamin D, which helps with hormone balance, mood, immune support, skin, hair, all of those things that we think about. Vitamin C is also an immune booster, which is definitely in collagen. It helps with all of that. We all want to keep our skin elasticity, and collagen and hair. That's super important for all of us. Like there's ginseng, red clover, a lot of different other varieties. Magnesium is a natural support for sleep. That is for GI, like constipation issues that can come along with hormone imbalance, as well as sleep and relaxation. Definitely helps with that a lot, and very natural. There's many products now that are available together, um, which I think is great. I would just encourage, like I love when my clients come in and they have questions, and I'm very lucky to have clients that are very well educated and read, and I don't mind at all. I mean, I think it's great when they come in and say, "What do you think about this?" And because sometimes I feel like you can get too much as well. And a lot of them have the same, I mean, nobody wants to waste their money, right? A lot of them have the same ingredients in it. And then there's hormone replacement. There's traditional estrogens and the estradiol, as well as progesterone, that we've had for a long time. There's compounding bioidentical cream that a lot of people like, because you can compound a little testosterone in it and create. It's a little bit more tailored to you specifically, and adding the progesterone. Progesterone is added in the evening because it helps you sleep better. It makes you kind of sleepy. It has a short half life, so it doesn't hang on in the morning. So that's the good thing. And then there's pellet therapy that's compounded as well. That's getting a lot of new rave reviews. It's been around for a while. I think it's catching on more. Um, a lot of my clients really love it because you insert a pellet and you don't have to think about anything. everybody's time is a little bit different, but the earliest you can do it is every 3 months. Most people go about 3.5 to 4 months. So we just have a lot of options, and you can use all of this replacement if you do choose to do hormone replacement. You can do natural supplements along with it, supporting a woman's thyroid just a little bit through it all, or adrenal when you're going through it all. There's changes. There's so many physiology changes in the body that happen all at one time, and you may be feeling so tired in the afternoon at 2 or 3 o'clock, where you just want to put your head down on the desk. Doing a little adrenal support through it all, and hormone replacement is fantastic. I mean, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and so I guess the question I would have for our viewers, and we're running through the age ranges, right? From 40s,
Sure.
50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. If you do decide, I want to feel better about my life. I want to, have some more energy. I want to, even if you're beyond menopause and maybe you started HRT, should you continue on it forever? Is there a stopping point? We've had many celebrities again within that age range and their senior living that promote it, but do you need it?
So that is a very good question, and the question is, you don't have to continue it forever. It's everybody's different. It's up to you, and I have clients that come in that have gone through menopause, and they've done fine. Maybe they're not having hot flashes anymore, but the sleeping's off, or the fatigue. I hear fatigue all the time, or just low libido. I mean, everybody, like, my son's graduated high school this past weekend, and here we are, empty nesters. Time to focus on ourselves and move on, and all of those things. You want your energy back. You want to feel like what Suzanne said earlier. Feel validated, know that you're still there. Know that we have great opportunities to make it better. So and I think for women that are in their 60s or late 50s that have gone through menopause, it's not, most people tell me they don't want to feel like they're 20 again. That's not what we're looking for. We're just looking for some energy where you feel like you don't need a nap at 2 o'clock, and that you can finish a movie. So, would be nice sometimes. And I think that's real. Or just, if you give a woman a little bit of energy and they feel better, that it's like a waterfall effect. Women lose 5 pounds and they feel better, and they're walking and they're doing great. So, I mean, that's what's so fun for me, to see that happen.
Yeah. And Suzanne, one part that we haven't really discussed, but it's something that we do every day, we eat. So nutrition, how does nutrition play a role in sort of better balancing our hormones?
Right. It's huge, and it's more so as we get older, because we can't, it's kind of like in our 20s we could not exercise and kind of get away with it for a while and still have a fairly fit body. It's not that way. As we get older, we do need to be more mindful about what we're putting into our body and how we're treating it. We should be eating more protein, and I don't mean fried chicken. I mean good, lean. And we need to avoid sugar, high amounts of sugar, fatty foods, more lean protein, fiber, of course. If you read the label and you have no idea what those words are on something you're about to eat, it's a good idea to not eat it, because the more additives and preservatives, the harder it is on your body. And those things do affect your overall health. They affect your hormones. And you will feel better if you're eating a nice, clean diet. The other thing that I think, especially for women, there've been so much research done on a variety of health issues, dementia, bone health. Women, for whatever reason, have men can kind of get away with not doing as much longer and still have, a pretty good effect. Women, for example, our bone banks, we're pretty much done, and this is meant to growing our bones, in the late 20s. So you can always do low impact exercise, increase your supplements, improve your diet. But we really need to educate the next generation that they need to be exercising, doing low impact, using weights. We need to be doing that. And that is so important. Those weight bearing exercises as seniors, of course, you want someone to guide you and show you the proper way. But for example, where I am in my life, that's the number one thing I should be doing in a workout program. And then, of course, some cardiovascular and stretching. Your balance changes. So we really need to look at exercise, going out and getting sunshine to absorb for our bones. Osteoporosis can kill. That's how we get our falls that end up in a major injury. Those are important things, and they help your sleep. It's all a cumulative effect.
It all goes together. And, as someone who understands that and had just started training, weight training with a trainer, who has said, it's never too late to start. I don't care how old you are.
Mhm.
If you're able-bodied and you're able to pick up a phone, if you're able to
Mhm.
pick up,
Absolutely.
you
A
can
soup
do anything.
can, a Campbell's
Exactly.
soup can on each side.
Right.
That's all you
That's
have to
right.
do. Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
right. So and it's sometimes it seems daunting because maybe we've gone for so long and haven't done it, but you can always start from ground level zero and work your way up. So it's I think that's sort of something that's promising for all of us out there. And we
It
hear these
is,
things, it's
and it
like, well,
has
it's
so
never too
many
late.
good side effects. I had a cardiac rehab group, and we would do the walking, and they were monitored, and then we sat down and did chair low impact weights. And one woman who had very extensive rheumatoid arthritis, her little hands were just gnarled. As a side effect, she told me, I can write now, just because she had had those weights, and they were like 1 pound, 2 pound weights. She was more mobile and she could use her hands again. It's a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, and Heather, I think, can you add to that maybe an example or two of what you have seen from maybe your patients that can, I think we hear that, we're like, when we hear the examples, we can kind of maybe see ourselves within those examples.
Right. I think it's very important to do weight training, and weight training is a strong word, right? That's what we were
Yeah.
talking about, and doing just incorporating it into your life. And as we were talking earlier, as women, we're busy, we're multitaskers, we're taking care of everybody else. And then, like, for Suzanne and I, adding on the nurse side of it, we're really busy taking care of other people, and we don't take the time for ourselves. And it's not that, I always tell everybody, you don't have to be a weekend warrior. Don't feel like you have to go run a marathon. That's not what we're looking for. We're like, okay, start 10 minutes 3 times a week. Your 10 minutes will evolve to 15. It'll evolve to 20, because you're going to enjoy that time. And I don't know why women, we feel so guilty about having that time. I think back when my kids were little, and to be able to take a bath for 10 minutes was amazing, without somebody knocking on the door. And translating that as you get older, it's okay. It's okay, because it's mentally just as much as it is physically. And I think that if you incorporate it, there's so many benefits to that, emotionally, physically, sleeping,
Mhm.
moving for nutrition, the GI aspect of it all. As you go through menopause, a lot of people have diarrhea in the beginning, or loose stools, or constipation. And, nobody likes to talk about that. Especially if you're a woman and you're gassy, nobody likes to talk about that, but it's real, and everybody goes one way or the other. It will get better, but moving and exercising helps all of that. Drinking lots of water, and that is something that I say every day. And I have to do it to myself too. It's hard. It's hard to drink as much water as we are supposed to every day, but very necessary, you know. And I think that if you can, I always say this to my clients, and it is very hard to do. If you can try to get yourself to drink 8 full glasses of water a day. You will feel like you're going to the bathroom, every bathroom in town, and you know everywhere you go for 2 weeks. But after 2 weeks, your body craves it, and that gets better. If you can get past that 14-day mark, it makes a huge difference. And that is really, it's hard to do, but once you get there, it's a great feeling and so good for your body, you know? I think that's important, and people that do it, people that come into the office are like, "Oh my gosh, you were right." I'm like, "I know, it's really hard to get there, but once you d get there, it's great."
Yeah, water's everything. You
Right.
when you start drinking as you mentioned, the recommended 8 glasses of water a day or more, and you wake
Mhm.
up the next day, you're like, "Gosh, my skin looks so great. What is what do I do
I know.
differently?" Well,
Yeah,
you drank a lot of water, but I hadn't heard the sort of the 14-day rule, so I'll actually put that into effect today. So see, I'm taking something from this, and I will absolutely do that. I try to get as much water as I can, and sometimes, it doesn't quite work out, but the 14 days, make it a habit, right?
right, right.
One thing that we can kind of pick up on the heels of that discussion is incontinence. Can we discuss that aspect of aging and how it relates to menopause or perimenopause?
Sure, so incontinence definitely happens. Sometimes, it's a physical change, when someone's bladder drops, and that we have to maybe look into for surgical repair, but a lot of times when your hormones change, you can have a little incontinence, and that's something that is normal. Some people have it more than the other, and vaginal dryness is something that's real and unfortunately can help contribute to urinary tract infections. And that, because of the heels of talking about water, is very important, which is really hard to do when you have incontinence, to drink more water and you feel like, oh my goodness, it's just a never ending train. But this is where a little bit of hormone replacement can help those symptoms. And even if you are a little nervous about taking it orally, you can do vaginal creams, which can help with vaginal dryness and without taking it systemically. So there's different ways, to address that. Everybody's a little bit different in their symptoms, but
Okay.
Can I ask Heather for you to just touch on all of our different systems because I don't think people realize how each system of our body is affected by the hormonal changes we're going through.
sure. Like, I think that you mean like,
Well,
cognition and
yeah, well,
neuro
yes,
and
exactly.
sure.
And GI, uh-huh.
Yeah, so we had talked a little bit about the GI effects and, your metabolism definitely slows down, and that's where, I have this belly weight, it's from menopause, and this is where your diet and nutrition definitely come in and your exercise. And as we all know, there's lots of weight loss medicine that's out there now that is that a lot of people are taking, but that too, you need to have some exercise along with it because it's a change in lifestyle, and increasing your protein, like Suzanne was saying, definitely is huge, and fiber, and drinking a lot of water. So, bone health, we've learned, I think I said earlier about how, a lot of women didn't have estrogen replacement for a while because we thought that it was, always tied to cancer. And we've learned a lot in the last 10 years that if you support women with a little bit of testosterone, and estrogen, it can help bone health. And this is one thing that I really love in my practice and for myself even. I've had knee surgery. So for me, bone health is super important and I want to make sure I keep them very strong. So I have my clients, especially clients that have a low bone mass or maybe even osteopenia, and porosis, checking that DEXA scan every couple of years when you're doing some hormone replacement therapy and you're doing your vitamin D and C and calcium, you can change that. You can actually go back to the normal bone mass, and that is amazing. And to have these studies that we're actively looking into and the support to do that is awesome. And and then you have someone that have stronger bones, exercise more, the waterfall effect to cardiac benefit from it all is it all works together. And I think that is something that we need to learn from. And walking, we don't talk about walking enough. You don't have to be a jogger, you don't have to be a runner. Walking and swimming are two of the best exercises there is.
Yeah, to target all the things you just said. Um,
Right.
Guys, this is a good time to get your questions in. We've got a couple already in the queue, and we'll get to those. Again, in order to do that, just scroll down to the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, and you can type your questions there, and I'll be happy to read those to Suzanne and Heather. So I don't know who wants to take the question here, but I'll just read it. Chrissy asks, can HRT help postmenopausal women with marriage, relationships? If so, which hormones? We're talking postmenopausal here.
Okay, I'll take that one.
Sure, please do.
Um, yes, absolutely, it can. It definitely can help. It's testosterone and estrogen usually are the two that it can be compounded. It can be definitely traditional, and also the pellets that we had talked about earlier. Um, Definitely help libido. It helps fatigue. One of the things that a low testosterone, we hear it all the time in men. That's what we think of when we think testosterone. And, you know, gentlemen that come in my office, it's not, they come in and say they're just fatigued and low motivation. I hear that a lot. I can't turn my mind off at night. I don't sleep well because of it. Well, women, it's the same thing in women as well. We have testosterone. We have a normal range to women in postmenopause. That range is like 5 to 55. And you may be a woman that was running in their 40s, and then now all of a sudden you're down to 8. Well, you definitely feel that. And when you replace that in a woman with the other hormones, the energy comes back, you sleep through the night, you sleep better, you wake up feeling rested, and you have some interest in, sexual activity, which I think as women, a lot of times we feel bad because you're tired. And that's it. It's not that your relationship has changed with your partner at all. It's just, my husband and I joke around and we call it like the working day leftovers. You're tired at the end of the day. And, unfortunately, it makes you feel bad. And I think it's so great that you can support that. And I actually have people that say it's great. It feels like I'm dating my husband. I'm dating my wife again. And how great is that to offer that?
Sure. And to me, that's almost the epitome of the men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And a lot of it has to do with just how our bodies function, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And I think, it's always going to be a mystery from one sex to the other about each other. But if you are curious and you happen to have a partner who is a woman that is between 40 and 80 years old, this is a good place to start. That's all I'm going to okay, got another question here. Is there a correlation between lack of estrogen and UTIs with senior women? And I think we kind of touched on this a little bit, but let's answer that directly.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Go
Yes,
ahead,
Heather,
Suzanne.
go. Mhm. Sorry, I was just saying yes. Go ahead, Heather.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, yes, there is. Like, the low estrogen, definitely it definitely causes vaginal, dryness, and also it can cause because of that, it can cause, like, intercourse to be uncomfortable, but also UTIs because of the dryness. And that's where this is where even during perimenopause, you can have these changes, and supporting someone with just a small amount of estrogen and or progesterone in the evening can help this. And this, again, back to discussing as we go through these changes and looking at these symptoms and realizing that I even when I went through it, and I'm in the field, there was when I was going through like the symptoms for myself, you're like, oh yeah, that's me. That's me. You know, you don't realize it. You just think it's normal, or, and some people feel it more than others. And a lot of women discover probiotics, you know, that for vaginal health during this time, which I think is very important. And we've come a long way in that realm of targeting that for women, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, great. And
And Heather, I have a question. That dryness, is it associated, for example, dry eyes? Is that a hormonal impact as well? Because people tend to have more dry eye symptoms.
Absolutely. Dry skin, you
Mhm.
know, your hair gets a little drier, brittle, dry eyes, and dry eyes, I think, you know, people are like, "Oh, my eyes water all the time. It must be allergies." That's a symptom of dry eye. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, you know, but it is.
yeah, I didn't know that. So how does that connect with if you're following Heather's advice and you're drinking your 8 glasses of water a day,
Mhm.
is that still gonna be something that's impactful to you? Like, are you still gonna have the dry eye? Is that still gonna be something that, or will that fix that?
I think it helps. I think it definitely helps. I think it helps with skin elasticity. I think it helps with overall, as we get older, the amount of water in your body decreases. I
Okay.
mean, that's just a fact of life. And so as we get older, that changes. So it's super important to make sure that you're staying hydrated, because it does affect you so much more quickly than it did in your middle of life years. Just like kids, when kids are little, it doesn't take much for a child to become dehydrated. Same sort of concept when we get older.
Got it.
Also, to piggyback on that, the hormonal changes are what are drying out throughout your body. So that is contributing, is the hormonal changes, why now you have dry eyes. So along with the water, you may want to be looking at hormonal replacement.
Okay. Kim wanted to add, I think it's pronounced Nueve, Neueve. She says works well for dryness and pain, and it also helps with UTIs. It's all natural with no hormones. So this is what this discussion is all about, right? We talked about
Right,
community, throwing out another option out there for our viewers. We appreciate that,
right.
Kim. We got a question here from Anonymous. What doctor would I take my mother to for HRT to help with UTIs?
I think that, well, hormone replacement therapy, and I do it in primary care because I do see a lot of women. I think a lot of my clients have, you know, been past the childbearing age, and we do hormone care and regular women's exams in the office. I think a lot of primary care people do. Um, you know, like I was saying, a lot of my clients come in and they're like, I'm done having children. I just want to do my regular pap smears like every 3 years and follow up. So I think an internal medicine office or primary care, if they do offer, you know, women's health, I think that's a good place to start.
Also too, I found that if you, and most of us use Google, let's be real, to find, you know, uh, doctors
Mhm,
or people that holistic health
mhm.
doctors or medicine, and you can look that up and maybe type in a search that's a gynecologist slash HRT, and then you can
Right.
find the doctors that are pretty good about incorporating that into the medicine that they practice. Really good way to kind of short and sweet find that particular person for you. So guys, we're running out to about 15 more minutes here to the top of the hour. Continue to get your questions in if you want some answers from these ladies who have obviously a lot of information that they can share with all of us. Just needing a little bit to prompt them to get them to the answers that you need here today. Okay, so we talked about the community. We've talked about some of the symptoms. We have discussed sort of the age ranges and the wide varying symptoms that we could all have. What does it look like on the back end? Do we know? Like, will we know when we're sort of beyond all of this? How will we know that? Like, what does it look like on the back end? And maybe give those of us who are going through it, or those even the seniors who are like, "Yep, I'm beyond that now. I don't need to worry about this anymore."
Well, I can speak for the back end.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting, menopause, and correct me if I'm wrong, Heather. You have menopause is really just kind of like the bookmark between the before and after. So menopause is like one day, boom, and then you're on the other side. And if you have gone a year without having a period, that's kind of the official. You can also go to your doctor and have blood tests drawn, and they can tell you, looking at your hormonal levels, if you have gone through menopause and you're on the other side. The other side is awesome in many ways. Think about no more cycles, no more PMS, all of the things that go along with that, not having to worry about contraception. There's a lot of really great things. So those are the pluses. And then some of the things we've discussed, they don't go away. And in fact, some of them become even more prevalent. For example, UTIs, incontinence for other reasons as well, just aging in general. But they don't have to. You can look at programs for pelvic floor exercises. You can go to a doctor and find out exactly what's going on with your incontinence. Don't just decide it's this, so that's my life. Go and ask the questions and find out what exactly is going on. It's really up to each one of us to be proactive and do those things we know will help keep us in our highest level of living and quality of life. That holistic approach with the natural, the traditional medicine, and the exercising, get outside, get some vitamin D from the sun. They're showing so many studies now how important that is, even with dementia and decreasing your probability for dementia. So take all those things that we know lead to a healthy lifestyle and make sure they're integrated into your routine.
Nice. Okay. Guys, as we start to wrap this up, I'd like to get both of you to answer this one. What emerging trends are you seeing or innovations on the women's health side, and obviously directed to menopause because that's our topic today, excite you right now?
I think for me, we a little bit talked about it earlier, the bone health and supporting that. That I think is great. I think we saw a lot of osteoporosis and women that are in their 80s now, and we've just learned so much more about it and being able to offer medicine for bone support, learning how to navigate people through perimenopause and menopause to make that better. I think that's incredible, and I'm glad that we're doing so much research about it. Um, I the other thing that I think is really important as women, we're talking about it more. It's not a taboo to speak about menopause anymore, and we're here to support each other in community, which is what we're doing today. But that means so much. Suzanne and I were talking earlier today, and I do a lot of women's health and every day in the office, and I don't I don't advertise that. A lot of it's word of mouth because I love that. I love that everybody is talking a little bit more about it. And if you have a win, share your win. Like the person that was talking about Nuvi, that is awesome. Share it all. We all need to learn about it, and that's what makes women's health care grow and great, and we study more research about it, and it's ever changing. Cardiac, bone health, hormone replacement, all of the above.
We do have one final question, or let's get to.
I think the pellets, from what I've seen with the pellets, I've not personally utilized that, but I have got a lot of associates and friends who have really just, shouted from the mountaintops how impactful it's been for them, to the point of really improving quality of life with sleep, energy, libido, all of those things that get impacted.
One quick question I want to get to, but before we do, about the pellets, I have a question about that. Specifically, we talked about it a couple of times here on the webinar already. We've talked about the bioidentical hormones, and you can buy all kinds of stuff just even on Amazon, right? And then there's some stuff you have to get compounded with a doctor's prescription. And
Mhm.
so I'm curious, pellets, they're inserted. Does that give you a higher level of hormone initially, and then does it start to taper off? And then for maybe the creams or troches or the other ways that you can get that into your body, is it maybe more just like that one day and you apply it and then you get the impact and then you have to do it again every single day? I mean, what are we looking at here in terms of the levels of getting what we need out of what we're putting into our body?
Right. So there's different ways to deliver the hormones, like you were talking about. So we have like the estradiol, the estrogen patches, and progesterone. Progesterone is usually in a pill because of its half life, and it makes you a little bit sleepy. Pellets are compounded, and they're not mixed together, but a testosterone and an estrogen pellet. They are inserted. It goes right under the skin. It takes really like 10 minutes at the most. You wear a bandage on it for about 3 days after, and then you can take your bandage off. No sutures, anything like that, just steri strips. Really small incision that it goes right underneath the skin. Yes, it gives you. So the idea is when you put it in, you get your labs drawn 5 weeks after the insertion to make sure the first time that we've hit our target that we want to be at. And then afterwards, you don't have to get it checked every time. I check on my clients for sure every year. Sometimes if there's changes or we're having some breakthrough hot flashes, then of course we check it before the next time. But yes, it can give you a higher dose in the beginning. The idea is it just kind of gives you a slow amount as you go through. Most of the time, by the second or third pellet, you have leveled out a little bit, but everybody's a little different. There's suggestions of the dose we should put it in, but that's where you have the clinical discussion with your caregiver about, what are you feeling? What's important to you? And that's where it comes along. The creams are you apply them every day. They're very important about the way that you put them on and let them dry afterwards. So yeah, and some people absorb better than other people. Some people like the creams; they feel like it gives them what they need. I have older clients that don't do the creams even every day. They're like, "Hey, 2 or 3 times a week works for me." So that's where the discussion and the history and talking about your own symptoms comes into play.
Great, great. And no, the final question I have on the back end of all of that, and I think that maybe a lot of people wonder this, you go and you get your levels checked every 6 months or whatever it is, every 3 months, but our levels change every single day. Is there anything
Mhm.
out there that can kind of give us a better, more accurate description of what's going on with our hormonal levels from a day-to-day basis? Well, you can't, obviously, you're not going to draw blood every day, but is there anything out there? I don't know if saliva
Mhm.
test or anything like that would work, but I think something that would give you more of a better snapshot of what's going on internally.
Yeah, so this is where I think if you're following with your gynecologist or your caregiver and you're seeing the whole picture, this is where it comes into play because you can have a little bit of underlying thyroid issues or you can have a blood sugar that's running a little bit high that can mimic even hormones, and that's where I think it's very important. There are saliva tests for cortisol levels. There are random insulin tests if you're leaning towards if you had PCOS when you were younger and things don't as you go along, your adrenals may be tapped out a little bit earlier than someone else. So there's bigger pictures to look at it. There's nutrient studies that you can do. This is where the traditional medicine and a little bit of out of the box, I think, is a really nice working together. We offer that a lot in our office. Unfortunately, a lot of the nutrient studies aren't covered by insurance, but I think there's so many different avenues to do that now. It makes them more affordable than they used to be.
Awesome. Okay, last question, and then we'll wrap it up. Does menopause affect cholesterol levels?
Yes, it can. Yes, it definitely can. And then also, um, I think too, going along with that, when hormones change, and this is where we've heard a lot of information about food noise and all of that as we get older, but also getting older affects cholesterol levels too. You know, a lot of times you can get by with eating bad a little bit on vacation and then you jump back on the wagon and you're good for a while. As you get a little bit older, some of your genetics start coming out a little bit that we can't change with diet and cholesterol. I mean, diet and exercise, but just being aware of them. But having a low cholesterol diet, of course, and low sugar diet is definitely helps.
Okay. All right. First of all, thank you everybody for chiming in with questions. That's what this was all about. And before we leave, Suzanne, Heather, do you guys have any final parting thoughts about this topic or anything that you really want our viewers to take away here today?
I think if you are in that age range, or even, some folks have an earlier onset, if things are kind of different, start a daily journal and write down each day, because it's hard to go back and say, well, this started on this day or this was happening. Keep a journal and just write down symptoms so that you have something to take in to the doctor and just show them kind of ongoing what's been happening. It helps you to follow that pattern, and it helps your PCP to be able to understand better what exactly is going on. And then just advocate for yourself. You do what you need to, go find a different doctor, do your own homework before you go in, so you have some questions that you've researched, and really advocate and find those people that in your community that are supportive.
I think the one thing I agree with all of that, what Suzanne was saying, definitely advocating for yourself and taking the time. I mean, making an appointment to go have that be your discussion, because I feel like so many women feel alone and, during it, or they feel like maybe that's something's changed in their life, or maybe they're just a little bit depressed, and as you talk through it all you learn more symptoms, and as you talk with your provider, I think it opens up a little bit more if you just give it time. And that's important. I think that's mental health and physical health is so important.
Yeah, and I think our overall takeaway today is you don't have to suffer in silence. You
Right.
don't. So, and we hope that this, and if you are, we hope that this may be a catalyst to help you take that next step to, again, taking any of the advice or tips here today and incorporating that into your life to, sort of dampen the side effects of perimenopause, menopause, and the things that happen to our body as we age. It happens to all of us. So, ladies, man, this was just a phenomenal webinar, extremely informative. We thank you so much for both of you taking the time out of your busy schedules to be with us here today.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Yep. And for those of you who were a part of the webinar, once again, thank you so much for being a part of our conversation. You'll receive a link to this presentation in the email you used to RSVP here today. Also, a reminder, if you found this webinar informative, you gained some knowledge from it, and you want to watch more videos just like this one, head on over to our website. It's www.seniorlivinglive.com. All of our videos there are all about senior living, and they are all free and they are all on demand anytime you want to watch. Thank you so much for being a part of Senior Living Live. Have a great day, everybody.